And getting in some breaking news update, BMC staff is likely to go to the cruise terminal around 4 p.m. to set up the testing center and test all passengers aboard Cordelia cruise. The cruise operations were suspended after 66 passengers on board tested positive for COVID-19. Yasha is joining us with more details. Now, the BMC staff, we are being told, Yasha, will be going to the cruise and inspecting the situation that over 2,000 people, remember, were on board the luxury cruise that has now turned into a COVID-19 hotspot.
Yes, in fact, now what we see is that the Cordelia cruise is expected to return back to the Mumbai cruise terminal, say by 7 p.m. So, which is where we see the BMC has already made preparations that all those who are coming back would be tested for RT-PCR all over again. While the tests were made for them at Goa and 66 are tested positive, but now because there have been complaints by those on board that negative and positive patients were kept together, which is where now, because once these passengers land, that is around 2,000 of these passengers which are on board the cruise, they'll be returning to Mumbai and all of them would be tested for RT-PCR all over again, on the basis of which there'll be quarantine measures which will be set up for them. Also, those who are positive would be moved to the specific facility. Now, this has in fact been mentioned by the BMC officials as well, and all the precautions are being made mandatory for those who are coming in to Mumbai. So around 4 p.m. like you said is where the BMC team would be moving to the cruise terminal. There will be specific instructions which have been given. Also, what is in fact to be noted is that there were some of the passengers who had also dropped out at Goa. However, most of the passengers were made to stay on board. So all those passengers who've been positive are still on board, along with several passengers who've tested negative. So what we understand from our sources, in fact, is that there was no quarantine or there was no isolation that was made for those who've tested positive on board the cruise. And this is, in fact, a serious concern because now the fact that there'll be more passengers coming in, there's a possibility of the others also getting infected in that case, and which is where we've seen several videos coming out of the cruise of passengers trying to get their way out and trying to fight with the authorities, stating that there should be some kind of a protocol that should be maintained for those who are already on board. So now this cruise in fact had set sail from Mumbai just 3 days back. They were supposed to finish off their tour at Goa. A 6 to 7 hour time frame was designated for them so that they can roam in Goa, but because this one crew member had tested positive on the antigen test, it was his positive test, as a result of which none of the passengers were allowed to disembark at Goa. This is where we see that the Goa government had taken a strong cognizance and had ensured that none of those who are on board the cruise are allowed to step down. So once they return to Mumbai, there will be a full-fledged protocol, there will be a full-fledged RT-PCR test that will be done, and in order to ensure that those who are already on board and have tested positive would be taken, they will also be given an option to either go to the Baikla center, the Baikla quarantine center of BMC, in order to get isolated there. There will be several other such provisions which will be made, because also those who will be quarantined would also be asked to stay either quarantined at their home or choose a BMC facility. So in fact, what we hear from our sources is there's a possibility that those who test negative would also be asked to be quarantined for a specific amount of days in order to ensure that they, because they've come in contact with the positive patient, do not spread the virus. Yes.
Absolutely.